This is Johnny and Jose with Tiger Bomb MMA, and today we'll be going over UFC Fight Night, Makhachev versus Moises. Going over the entire card, breaking down fights, giving you our thoughts, predictions, possible bets, parlays. Actually, for this one, I usually do a full card parlay, like a $5 full card parlay. I might give you some thoughts on what I might do on this card. To be honest, we're not incredibly excited for this one. It doesn't really have that name value, but as we were discussing right before we started recording, these types of cards are usually the ones that overperform, and you're going to probably be a bit disappointed that you missed out. But we'll start off with a short notice fight at welterweight, according to Tapology, the first fight of the night, which I really doubt. I think they're going to restack the card. But currently, Daniel Rodriguez versus Preston Parsons. And currently no odds because very short notice fight. Nurmagomedov, who was it? Abu Bakar pulled out. I don't know exactly why. I just found out about this fight. I've started doing a bit of research on Preston, and I'll break it down quickly. Currently, we have the 14-2 Rodriguez. He is 34 years old, 6'1", 74-inch reach. To come back on Parsons, he is 26. He's a younger guy, 5'11", 72-inch reach. So he's giving away about an inch or two in height and 2 inches in reach. It's really exactly what you're thinking, right? Daniel Rodriguez, we've seen what he can do. He just beat Mike Perry. His last loss was to Nicholas Dalby in a fight where he really didn't pull the trigger. And I think he's really recognized that, like, hey, if I'm going to start winning fights, I can't let it go to the hands of the judges, or at least at the bare minimum, I have to give a bit more output. For Preston Parsons, right, we're automatically thinking this guy's coming in on short notice, fighting one of the better guys at welterweight right now. And on top of that, after reviewing Parsons' record, it shows that one of his two losses, is to Platinum Mike Perry, who, of course, is the most recent win for Daniel Rodriguez. So that MMA math already gives you an idea. The positives I see from Preston and his ways for victory would be more so the volume, because he is outgunned really in every department. Daniel Rodriguez hits harder. I think his jiu-jitsu, I wouldn't say it's necessarily better, because Preston Parsons does have some pretty solid jiu-jitsu, even off of his back, but he's just going to be the smaller guy out there. He has put on some muscle, because I recently saw his fight against his last loss, or last opponent that beat him, against Vladimir Araujo, where he got submitted via guillotine choke, and he did not look very welterweighty, but he's looked like he's put on some mass. And quite frankly, I think his gas tank is pretty good. So there is a way he can win this fight, even at those ridiculous odds, which I'm assuming they're going to be, because he has some pretty good output. He doesn't seem to get tired when he's pouring it on guys. So if he puts you up against the cage, he has some really nice elbows. So I like what I see from this guy. It's just that I think Daniel Rodriguez is just the overall better fighter right now, and especially at short notice. I don't think Parsons is really that out of shape, because he just fought like about a month ago. So I'm sure he's still in shape. I don't think cardio will be an issue. And potentially, yes, Parsons could win a decision, but I don't see it happening. I think Daniel hits too damn hard. I think he's going to catch him, drop him, at the very minimum, win a decision on points. I think he should easily dispatch of Parsons in the first round. So I'll go first round knockout for Rodriguez. For Parsons, I'm excited to see him in the UFC. I think he will win some fights with the right fighters. Potentially even a drop down the lightweight would help him, but we'll see how he looks on the scales. But I'll go with, again, Rodriguez round one knockout.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rodriguez at this point has the experience edge, just due to the fact that he has more fights in the UFC. And I think at this point he's fought better competition. I think if Parsons, would have fought similar competition, they had slightly similar records, or even if he fought, let's say, maybe even a handful of times in the UFC, I think it would make it, I think at this point, a little bit more competitive. But I think Rodriguez is set to, unfortunately, steamroll Parsons, unless the only way I see Parsons winning is maybe by Rodriguez gassing out late in the second or third round, and catching him in, like, maybe some submission, maybe an armbar, or guillotine, rear naked, even a triangle, maybe if he's like in ground and pound mode. Um, but I think Rodriguez, it says here he goes to he's out of 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu with Eddie, and so I think I've been working on throwing sand for a bit.
Oh, dude, that overpowered sand attack.
Yeah, so I think their sand attack is not Gara level strong, for the new Naruto fans, but it's getting there. I think his sand attack, his death coffin. I think he's probably working on that, and so yeah, I mean, I'll take Rodriguez by decision, but it might be worth maybe sprinkling, maybe a little bit on TKO. There is some. I think there might be value. We're not seeing the odds here. No. I'm not seeing them, I should say. But there might be some value, sprinkling a little bit on the TKO prop. But for sure, I think Rodriguez is winning, is taking this one.
Our next fight at featherweight, we've got a bout between Billy Quarentillo, and Mowgli Gabriel Benitez. Currently, the odds have it at minus 215 for Benitez. Wow, interesting. And Billy Q comes back 176 according to, I guess, FanDuel. I'm looking up at best fight odds, and they have multiple odds. I usually go with the first ones. Interesting. I didn't see that coming. Very interesting. I guess the ass whooping that he got from Gavin Tucker really put a damper in some of the odds makers. But it's a good fight, really, between these two guys. It's a close fight, in my opinion. It really depends on which Billy Q shows up and which Gabriel Benitez shows up. Personally, I think Gabriel, I've gained a bit more respect for him as a fighter as I've seen him. He has a couple losses that are recent. For example, he lost to Sadiq Youssef by knockout. But frankly, watching a lot of tape on Youssef, this fight really caught my eye because he was doing really well against Youssef until he got knocked out, which is, I know that's a stupid thing to say. Oh, he was winning until he got knocked out. But seriously, he was doing really well. And then the Omar Morales, he just got outpointed. And as for Billy Q, I was really high on Billy Q just on his past performances. His fight with Spike Carlisle, really a fun fight, really showed his gas tank and why he's such a feared fighter, because in the third round, he is very dangerous. And we saw that against Kyle Nelson, where he knocked him out in the third round. And it's like, wow, this guy is something special. But we come to see the fight with Gavin Tucker, and we see something that really discouraged me. And Gavin Tucker had a really good game plan because Billy Q's really good at jiu-jitsu. He's really good on top. He's really good on bottom because his gas tank really complements that, because he's able to just scramble and do things from the bottom and tire you out. What we saw is that Gavin Tucker attacked the body of Billy Q, and that really significantly slowed him down. So that gas tank was no longer an issue. He no longer became the dangerous fighter in the later rounds, and it just really diminished him as an overall fighter in his game. And frankly, if Benitez can attack the body with his vicious kicks, because that's one of his games, man. Mowgli's kicks are really hard, which we keep hearing that every time DC is on commentary, like, oh, Javier Mendez is always saying that he's the hardest pads he's ever had to hold for Gabriel Benitez. So he does kick really damn hard. So if he can attack the body, he can slow down Billy Q. The only thing is that Billy Q is a pretty tough guy. So it's a really close fight, in my opinion. It's a toss-up. If Benitez can really implement that plan and attack the body and slow him down, I think he can win this one. But if the relentless Billy Q continues to push Benitez against the cage, go for takedowns, try to go for top control, and implement submissions, it could be a really close decision fight, possibly even a split, where the striking advantage will go obviously to Benitez and the overall control time might go to Quarentillo. So it might be a split, in my opinion. The odds, frankly, I didn't think they were going to go this way, especially for Benitez's side. As I mentioned, that fight with Gavin Tucker really might have soured a lot of people on Billy Q. And partly that's why I'm leaning Benitez, but I'll go with Benitez to win this one by a decision. I think if he does the same thing as Gavin Tucker, you should be able to just tire out Billy Q, which is crazy to think of because Billy Q has quite the good gas tank. Just, body shots will do that to you. So I'll go with Benitez to win this one by a decision, but don't be surprised if it goes Billy's ways. I think this is a really close, fun fight.
You're right. This is pretty hard. I think this is like a coin flip fight. I think you'd be good going either way. But I believe I'm actually going with Billy Q on this one. And the reason is, while yes, what's his name, Javier Mendez may say like, oh yeah, this guy has, this guy, it's hard holding pads for this guy. I think it's just, he's getting older, and that's why he brought Khabib in to help out with the coaching and whatnot. Because now he doesn't even go out with the fight. I saw a video of him, driving out, to where the fighters are running and kind of, keeping an eye on them versus Khabib, he was riding a bike or running with them. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, he's just getting old, unfortunately. Not to say, that's not to discredit Benitez. He is a pretty hard striker, especially his kicks, I think. But that being said, I don't think he has the technique of Gavin Tucker, despite Gavin Tucker having gotten knocked out by Danny Ige in his last outing. Gavin Tucker's still shown a lot of improvement. He just got caught. And it happens to these guys, man. These guys, besides the fights, that they're, they have a lot of wear and tear for the fights. These guys are training and sparring and, just wears out the body, including, the head, chin, whatever. He just got his lights put out. But that shouldn't discredit, I think, the win that he got over Billy Q, being that Billy Q's, he's as aggressive. He comes forward and he has that gas tank. And I think that's what's going to put him over the top. I don't, like I said, Benitez could very well pull it out, but I foresee Billy Q getting that decision. I don't think he'll be able to put away, on the flip side, I don't think he's going to be able to put away Benitez at any point, either by submission or by striking. But I think he's just going to have volume, cage control, control against the cage, maybe on the ground. I think he's just going to smother him. And since his last loss, it's been 6 months since he lost to Tucker. And so I think that's more than enough time for him to have improved and worked on, filling whatever holes he needs. So I am going with Billy Q by decision.
Our next bout at heavyweight, we've got Rodrigo Nascimento versus Alain Baudot. The odds have it currently, minus 350 for Nascimento, plus 275 for Alain Baudot. And frankly, the odds are pretty accurate because what we've seen from Alain Baudot, the Black Samurai, hasn't been incredibly impressive. Although I'm not going to sit here and say that he has no shot. If you want to take a shot on the underdog, you absolutely can, because we've seen Rodrigo get knocked out, not especially, but recently by Kyle Dawkins 8 months ago. Dawkins really got put on the map with that fight to really progress in the eyes of the UFC. They kept giving him bigger and better competition, and he's just been destroying them. But Nascimento was the guy who was the favorite in that fight. He was supposed to run through this smaller Kyle Dawkins, and Dawkins is just that beautiful left hook, put him on his ass. So there's a way that Baudot can win this fight, but it's not likely because he's not a very well-rounded guy. His striking is fun. His fight with Aspinall, I will say this, and this is what happened. Only one person shot for a takedown in that fight, and that was Tom Aspinall. Whether it was because he was afraid of the Black Samurai striking, maybe not. But the thing about that fight is that Aspinall took him down straight into mount. And Nascimento, he is a purple belt, if I recall correctly, in jiu-jitsu. The way he took Dontel Mace's back and submitted him was really, really nice, especially at heavyweight. And on top of that, I think he's just going to be the bigger guy. He is the younger guy. He's 28 years old compared to 33 for Baudot. He is 6'2" compared to the 6'3" of Baudot, and he has a 1-inch reach advantage, 80-inch reach for him, and 79 inches for Baudot. One thing I can say about Baudot, I keep saying that name and it's bothering me, is that he trains with Cyril Gahn, but take that for what you will. I'm going to go with Nascimento to win this one. Uh, I'll go with second round submission. I think if Nascimento comes in with a grappling and defensive game plan, because what really cost him against Kyle Dacus is that he was a little too aggressive. He was very aggressive against Dante Mays. And if he continues that type of aggression against a guy like Baudot, I think he might pay for it. And that plus money is going to look really good. But frankly, the better and skilled fighter would be Nascimento. So I'm going with him. I'm going to say second round sub.
Yeah, I would say don't let the records fool you. I think overall, Nascimento has fought the better competition. And while they're both coming off losses, I think, I don't know, they're both pretty bad losses. So, wait, how long has it been? It's been 8 months. And, oh, wow. Did they fight on this? Did they lose on the same card?
I believe they might have, yes.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Because I remember thinking, I hope to God they do not pair up Tom Aspinall with Kyle Dacus just to eliminate two heavyweight prospects, but luckily they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they might have. I can't 100% confirm.
All right. Well, damn. Okay. So both of these guys coming off knockouts. They both have had the same amount of time to recover, but I'm going to give it to Nascimento. I think he's, despite, as you mentioned, his aggressiveness. I think at this point he has slightly better technique. And so I think that's going to just put him over the edge. I don't know if he'll be able to put away Baudot like Aspinall did. He might, if he goes for the takedown, goes for some ground and pound, and maybe he could even submit him, I guess. Why not? He's an American top team, and he's Brazilian, so he should be able to submit him. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go on for too much longer. There's not really too much to talk about here. I'll just go with Nascimento. But actually, one thing I should mention are the odds I think they're too high. I think Nascimento should be maybe a 2-1 favorite, 3-1 favorite. That's really putting a lot of confidence in Nascimento, which I don't have. I would say, making him a -200 would have been more appropriate, but I think the odds makers are trying to prevent too much money from coming in on Nascimento. Not that it's a big profile fight, but I think they're just trying to, cut that slightly back. But, just based on the odds, I think there's more value on Baudot, if you're looking just at the odds themselves. But that doesn't mean you should bet on Baudot at any point in his career in the UFC. This is another one of those coin flip fights, to a certain extent. But I'm going to give the slight edge to Nascimento just because of his having faced slightly better competition. Because if you look at his record, he has a victory over another Nascimento, as well as a cyborg. So he's fought, these cybernetic beings from the future, and he beat one of them on his record several years ago. That's pretty tough to do. I mean, in how many movies, has John Connor and Sarah Connor not been able to defeat the Terminators? Yet this guy did it in one fight. So yeah, let's just go with Nascimento by decision, possibly a knockout, or by either not knockout, TKO by ground and pound, or possibly even a submission. Man, I don't know. Baudot's got to come out and show what he's got, like that episode of Rick and Morty where the giant heads come to Earth. They ask him to show him what he's got. Well, the giant heads are here for Baudot, and they're asking him to show everybody what he's got. If he doesn't, then I think the UFC is going to maybe give him one more chance, since I think they're short on talented heavyweights, or they're just going to feed him to Christakis or something his next fight if he loses pretty bad.
Well, we'll see if his teammate wins the belt. If not, if he doesn't, they might cut him. But if he does, they're pretty much going to give him another fight. I think he would be a decent addition. Like, he's not a top level guy, but he's a fun fighter. He's pretty damn aggressive and he spins. So that's always something good on the roster.
I guess.
Next fight at strawweight, Amanda Lemos versus Montserrat Ruiz. Currently, the odds have it, oh boy, minus 500 for Lemos and a plus 375 for Ruiz. Montserrat Ruiz, although she won her last fight against Cheyenne Buys, I despise this girl. I do not like her. And I don't know, man. I'm watching this fight with her and Buys. And yes, I put money on Buys. And yes, that was a bad pick. And I understand that. Buys did not look good. But in a win, Ruiz looked so pedestrian. It soured me on her forever. Like the way she acted in the fight during the weigh-ins, just detestable in my opinion. I just did not like her. And I might have some bias against her, but the reason I say that it's a closer fight, even though the odds are ridiculous in Lemos's favor, is that she kept landing that same head and arm throw, and she continued to hold on to it, and she won a fight like that. She does have some solid wrestling, and I really, really doubt she can pull that off again ever. I think it was just the right circumstances, but I'm not going to discredit her. Maybe I'm potentially even giving her more than enough credit because I do not like her. And my pick is going to be Amanda Lemos, just because from what I've seen, Lemos is just the superior fighter overall. But her last fight, I think that's the main reason why she's so damn high. She fought Lavina Souza and she demolished her. She looked incredible, man. She reminded me a lot of Davison Figueroa because like the way she would like lean her head in and then pull back and then attack with the jab or the straight was like ridiculous. Like she just made Livana Souza look horrible. She knocked her out with a jab for God's sake. And my main concern is that she's a big girl. She's fighting at strawweight. They mentioned that she used to fight, I think, at bantamweight or at 125. She got her ass beat by Leslie Smith. She dropped down, and she's just a really big, strong girl. So that's leading me to think, yeah, the takedowns from Montserrat are not going to be effective. And on the feet, I think Lemos is just going to have the better power, the better technique. She throws hard leg kicks. She's a bigger girl, longer reach by 4 inches. And it's really at this point, you probably shouldn't bet on this one at all, especially like by any possible prop. I think I'm staying away from this completely just because I want to pick a confident pick of Amanda Lemos to win this one by knockout. But Montserrat Ruiz is pretty damn tough. As much as I do not like this girl, I think she might have a way to win if she were to take her down and just control her. Like she is definitely cutting a lot of weight. Lemos is, so we'll see how that goes. I do think she's the overall better fighter, and if she does get taken down, I think her get up game is decent enough, and her submissions should be fine and dandy to at least threaten Ruiz. I don't know. I don't know what you're thinking, dude, but like in my mind, like I picture this being a blowout for Lemos, but last time I thought that on Ruiz, it made me look foolish. So maybe I'm being a little bit too conservative. But personally, I think Amanda's just going to destroy Montserrat Ruiz, just beat up the legs, jab her up really hard with nice straight jabs to the nose. And yeah, I think he's going to destroy her. But to be on the safe side, I know this sucks. I really don't know why I'm being so conservative with this one. I'm going to go with Amanda Lemos to win this one by a decision.
So here's the thing to keep in mind. This is a women's MMA fight.
I forgot. Oh, shit. You're right.
Yeah. So what's the number one rule of betting MMA?
Don't bet women's MMA.
Do not bet women's MMA. So this is a very low level fight. This isn't like it's they're matching up Valentina versus Jessica I2 or something. Where the odds are going to be like Valentina minus 1 million. The odds here are ridiculous. I mean, how are you going to put 500 minus 500 on Amanda Lemos? That's ridiculous. I do have her winning, but still, the odds themselves should keep people away from putting any money here or including it in any parlay, because this is one of the fights that will ruin your parlays. Just stay away from it. At minus 500 odds, it's not worth it. It's better to stay away. The odds were like minus 150 for Amanda and plus 120 for Montserrat. I think that'll be a lot closer because I don't think, well, this is kind of the women's equivalent of, a dream matchup where, they match up, what's his name? Henry Cejudo versus Hasbullah, where Henry Cejudo is going to be towering over Hasbullah, in a championship fight. So Amanda Lemos is 4 inches taller, and she does have a significant reach advantage. So on their feet, I think Amanda does have that, is going to be able to put that to use, the height and reach advantage. And I think that's going to force Montserrat to, try to go for the takedowns or try to go for cage control, against the cage and, try to get her down that way. But I think Amanda Lemos is going to be too big, too strong. I don't think she has all that great of a gas tank, but I think her strength is probably what's going to propel her. Her size and strength is when it's going to take her over the top. I'd say if you were going to include this in a parlay, I would say don't.
Oh, anticlimactic there.
Yeah, I thought about it for a second. I'm like, no, I don't want to be responsible for ruining anybody's parlay. I mean, I believe she's going to win, but I would suggest you staying away from this fight. Enjoy it if you must, otherwise, if you have a phone book handy, I'd suggest going through that instead for 15 minutes. Because I think this is going to go the distance. I think Montserrat is tough enough to handle Amanda Lemos's onslaught, which I couldn't think of a better word for it, pitter patter, maybe. So that's pretty much my 5 cents, or actually 2.5 cents, 2 cents. Was it 2 cents? 2 pesos.
Yeah, appropriate. Our next bout at bantamweight, we've got Anderson dos Santos versus Miles Chapo Johns, and the odds are.
I'm actually pretty excited for this one because I'm expecting. You know what? Never mind. I'm not going to spoil
it. All right. The odds currently have it -175 for Johns, +145 for Dos Santos. Very close fight, in my opinion. Again, another pretty close fight. Although the odds are obviously going in the favor of Miles Johns, and I think partly is because of his last performance against Kevin Natividad, where he knocked him up. He knocked him out so bad that I think he broke him. Like it was like a glitch in the matrix where he's almost doing a backflip, but the mechanics of the game did not allow him to. So he just flops to his back. It was awesome. It's probably one of my favorite knockouts. Go rewatch it again. It's weird. Like the mechanics of it, like his body gives out, but I don't know. It's awesome. And then Dos Santos, the thing about Anderson dos Santos is that he is dangerous regardless of what the odds say, regardless of what you guys think. Like this dude is always going to fight for your money. He might not always win, but he will go out there and fight for your money. He knows he's losing a fight. Like for example, the fight with Andre Ewell. Like he is absolutely getting beat. Like his getting jabbed to death. He cannot reach Andre Ewell, but he is not giving up. He will attempt to get as close as he can, eat one to give one, which is I love this guy. And he pulled off the submission. I forgot what the odds were, but he was an underdog against Martin Day and got the submission. So I like betting Anderson dos Santos against certain level guys that are similar in height to him. Currently, these two guys are relatively similar. He's the shorter guy. So Chapo Johns 5'7" and Anderson dos Santos 5'5". Now Anderson does have the reach advantage. He's got a 70-inch reach. Come back on Johns, it's a 68-inch reach. But it's a close fight, man, because I think Johns is the overall better fighter right now. He's obviously younger. He's got a better team behind him, and Fortis. His movement's very good. His takedown defense is good. His grappling is good, except that his chin is a bit questionable. But Anderson dos Santos, he's not necessarily known as the greatest striker. He's quite wild in there sometimes, but if he connects, he will be putting Johns to sleep. It's really, really tough to pick this one because I really am leaning towards Johns to win this one because I think he has the game plan to win a decision and just keep Anderson on the outside and then just batter him up with his striking leg kicks, defending takedowns, and just being mindful of anything wild coming his way. But the way I see this fight going, I think Anderson is just going to be too much. Even if he's losing the fight, I think he's just incredibly dangerous throughout the entire fight. He might put Johns in a particular spot where he's just not going to be very comfortable, and he might go for an opportunistic submission, maybe go for a takedown, take his back, get him submitted, or even hurt him on the feet. I think Johns can be a little bit complacent on the feet if he is just winning. I think he might get a little lazy and lackadaisical, and Dos Santos might catch him and then take him down, or maybe even get another guillotine. So I'm going with the dog. The more dangerous fighter, in my opinion, would be Dos Santos. Quite frankly, if he doesn't get the finish, I think Johns wins by decision. But frankly, dog or pass. So I'm going to go with Dos Santos to win by, I'm going to say, second round submission.
So here's how I'm looking at this fight. I'm pretty excited actually for Anderson Dos Santos. And the reason is this. He is a combination of Anderson Silva and Junior Dos Santos. So how I foresee this fight going is, Miles Johns going to come in, pretty, ready to with his fists and his knees loaded up, and then Anderson Dos Santos is going to take him into the matrix. He is going to, throw a jab, a right cross, and maybe a left hook or something. And Dos Santos is going to dodge all these, and then he's going to hit him with the left front kick to the jaw, which is going to stun Miles Johns for a moment, and then he's going to hit him with like a really wide uppercut. How kind of how Junior Dos Santos hit Fabricio Verdum in his debut. But this isn't going to put away Miles Johns because he's going to recover for a bit. He's going to take Anderson Dos Santos down. This is all going to happen in the first round. And then he's going to dominate him through the second. Halfway through the third, he's going to make the mistake of, getting only half his body into the guard. And then Anderson Dos Santos is going to pull, the miracle triangle on him. He's going to elbow him on the head a couple times. And then he's going to, lock in the triangle as well as an armbar at the same time to pull out the victory. That's how I foresee this fight going.
Very, very analytical there.
Yeah. That's if Anderson Dos Santos actually trained with Anderson Silva and Junior Dos Santos, but I don't see that happening. I think in the bantamweight division, I think the younger guys actually have the edge a lot of the time, unless we're talking like maybe a Dominic Cruz or maybe a Cody Garbrandt against, a very inexperienced guy. Anderson does have, I think, the experience edge here, but I think the youth, or rather, the biggest factor I'm looking at is the youth of Miles Johns. I think that youth is going to propel him to victory here. I'm actually taking Miles Johns for the decision, unless Anderson Dos Santos listens to his podcast before his fight and kind of takes my analysis of how the fight's going to go to heart, and he kind of trains that way for the next week. I think he's, I don't know if he's going to have, what it takes to. I think despite Anderson, coming off a win against who was it? Martin Day, with his submission. I don't know if he'll be able to pull that off against Miles. I think Miles is. I think he's probably going to scramble and, just not get in any position or not be put in a awkward position where Anderson can pull that off. I could be wrong, but I think he's. The other thing, and I think this is, this is really going to happen, is that Miles Johns is going to have his minions dig a tunnel to the octagon, so that if he does get in trouble, they'll just be able to, open the latch and then pull him in and, get him to safety pretty quick, because he is El Chapo.
Oh God. Someone's got to watch out and maybe drug test Miles Johns, see if see how that test comes back.
No, man, he just deals it. He doesn't do it. He's a chopper. He just
Never on his own supply.
yeah, pretty much.
Our next fight at flyweight, we've got Figgy's brother Francisco Figueiredo versus Malcolm X Gordon, and the odds currently have this fight at minus 300 for Figueiredo and plus 250 for Malcolm Gordon. I will say I find these odds offensive for the fact that Amanda Lemos is a minus 500 against Montserrat Ruiz, but Figueiredo's brother isn't as high a favorite. I'm like, that's a little weird because frankly, I do not consider Malcolm Gordon to be UFC caliber. I know he's been fighting in the TKO scene in Canada. He's looked good in Canada, comes to the US, does not look very good. He loses to Amir Arbazi, gets submitted, which is crazy because Amir Arbazi, I think he's a lesser ranking in jiu-jitsu than Malcolm Gordon. I think Malcolm's a black belt and Amir might be like a purple belt, which is like okie dokie, interesting. And then he fights Sumadarji and he gets knocked out crazy. I think if I remember correctly, he gets punched and then he just seemingly gives up. And I'm not accusing him of that, but it just looked like that to me.
What it
Francisco
was.
Francisco
Exactly what it was.
Figueiredo. See, I don't know if you're looking at the screen right now. Do you think I should put it as Francisco Figueiredo or Figgy's brother, Jose?
Figgy's brother, just so people know that he is Figgy's brother.
Figgy's brother it is. Yeah, Figgy's brother is exactly that. He is just like a carbon copy of I almost called him Francisco of Davison Figueiredo. He fights a lot like him, but he is not him. I don't know. He's kind of just like a watered down version of his brother. He's not as explosive, but he's clear and cut light years over Malcolm Gordon. I think he's going to win this one any way he really wants to, which is strange because I think his striking isn't great, but I think it's good enough to knock out Malcolm Gordon. And I don't think his grappling is like fantastic, but I think it's good enough to control Malcolm Gordon. He is the shorter guy with the shorter reach. He's 5'6" compared to Malcolm Gordon's 5'7", 70-inch reach for Gordon. So Figueiredo has a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Regardless, I don't see how Figueiredo loses this one. He would have to pull a massive stunt to lose this fight because, again, Malcolm Gordon looks great against crappy competition out in Canada, but I've seen enough of Francisco to think, you know what, this guy isn't all that bad. He's good enough. We'll see how this goes. I don't know how he's going to finish Malcolm Gordon because he can get him by submission or knockout. I'm predicting a knockout. I'll go with a second round knockout. I think it'll be very, very slow for the first round of a weird feeling out process between both of these guys. And then Francisco in the second round, after he feels a bit more comfortable, knowing there's not much of a threat coming back his way, finds maybe a knockout with a knee. I think Gordon might go for a takedown, gets stuffed, hits him with a knee, knocks him out clean, and then hate saying this, but he'll be out of the UFC. Malcolm Gordon go back to Canada, and then he'll get back on a nice little win streak. But yeah, I hate to say it, man. I really don't like to be this negative, but I just don't see how he stays in the UFC. So I'll go with Francisco Figueiredo, Figgy's brother, second round knockout.
Sorry, what were the odds again? I think I missed those.
Yeah, the odds were minus 300 for Figgy's brother, plus 250 for Malcolm Gordon.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah, this is really Figueiredo's fight to lose. I'm expecting, Figgy's brother to come out with, red hair with a yellow stripe or blonde stripe, across his head, just so we can tell them apart, instead of coming out with the blonde hair and the red stripe. Because I don't think he's, I don't think he's Kratos, the god of war. He might be, I don't know. I think he might be shooting for, maybe be the second coming of Chris Lieben, hopefully. So Figueiredo, huh? Yeah, you put it right. You put it right on the money. Malcolm Gordon is not UFC caliber. Unfortunately, he is going back to Canada. wherever adrenaline, MMA training, and fitness is. This is definitely his last shot, and unfortunately, they had to pair him up against what we were referring as the lesser Figueiredo, but it turns out he's the superior Figueiredo. How the tables, how the coin flipped or the tables have turned or whatever. And I actually foresee Figueiredo winning in pretty spectacular fashion, either by TKO or submission, maybe a guillotine, no, not a guillotine, a rear naked. But Figgy's brother is going to get another win. He's going to get another W. Going to call up Brandon Moreno, tell him they are in the same division, man.
Yeah, they're flyweight. Yes. Yeah, well,
yeah.
Knowing that the better Figueiredo, I still think. I mean, technically, yes. Francisco Figueiredo is undefeated in the UFC, and Davison has a couple losses. I still think he's a better fighter, but yeah, I think definitely Figueiredo, the superior Figueiredo in God of War, he's moving up to bantamweight. I don't think he can do flyweight, so there will be only one Figueiredo at flyweight, and that would be Francisco. So you might try to get that revenge. So you might be right. All right, moving on to bantamweight, we've got hell of a fight between Khalid Taha and Sergey Morozov. Currently, the odds have it at minus 175 for Taha. The comeback on Morozov is plus 145. And excellent fight between these two guys, man. Their last two fights, they're coming off losses, but if you look at the competition that they fought, it's understandable. These two losses are like, just brush them under the rug. Sergey's lost to Umar Nurmagomedov, where frankly he looked good. It's just that it's almost like Nurmagomedov bringing back Naruto. It's like he had the Sharingan, man. Like he knew everything that Sergey was going to do, and he was just on top of that. Like it was incredible. It was a really good performance from Umar. And when it comes to Taha, his fight with Raoni Barcelos, he looked great in that fight. He just did not quit. I really got a sweat that entire fight because I bet Barcelos, and I was watching that fight outside the casino ready to cash out. And I'm thinking like, oh, easy money. I just need Barcelos to win so I can cash out my parlay. But every time I would get up from the car, like Taha would do something like, oh shit, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. So he's a really good fighter. He beat Bruno Silva, man. We know how Bruno Silva has been fighting recently, and he submitted him. Yeah, and he got popped for God knows what that caused it to be a no contest. But man, he did really well against Silva. It's an interesting bout because Taha has the power, Taha has the striking, Taha has the takedown defense, and Morozov, although his last performance really made him look kind of, I don't want to say he looked shitty, but like the perception that he looked bad against Umar, it's just that Umar looked really good because I really like Morozov at this spot, at this price tag, plus money on a Kazakhstani wrestler. His striking's not incredible or dynamic. I don't think he'll be able to really TKO Taha, but I think he'll be able to control him. I think he'll be able to pull off some really sneaky takedowns and then just control the rounds on top. My concern is that, of course, Taha is a very tough guy. He did really well against Barcelos. His takedown, his get-ups, I would say, were really good. And he can catch Sergey. But, man, I don't want to say that I'm high on Sergey quite yet, but I see some potential in him to really shock a lot of people. And for him to be an underdog, although he's not a crazy underdog, I think there's some value on him to win this one. Yeah, man, I'm going with Sergey to win. I'm going to say a decision, very close, but I think he pulls it off. I think he's just going to be a little quicker and a little smarter in this fight, go for the takedowns, control the rounds, and yeah, edge out that fight. So I'll go with Taha to win, or not Taha, I'm sorry, to go with Morozov to win by a 29-28 decision.
Yeah, I'm going with Sergey as well. I see this as the classic average or below average striker versus the average or below average grappler. In those cases, I'll give it to the grappler, to go to their bread and butter and get that boring decision. I don't know why this particular fight is so high up on the card. I think they maybe could have rearranged it a little bit better. Well, this may not be the actual order of the card, but I think this should be lower on the card. Don't really have much more to add other than I think you hit it right on with the odds. I think this is actually good value, but this is another one of those fights that I think you're better off staying away from. But if you do have to go, if you're like, I want to do that home run parlay or just bet on every fight, put down 10 cents or something or $1 or whatever you decide to do. I would say Sergey, I would go with Sergey, maybe the over, because I don't think either of these guys is finishing one another. I don't think they have what it takes. So I'll be going with Sergey and the over here, just based on, the old adage, grappler versus striker, I guess if you can put it that way, despite both of them coming off losses. I mean, he was facing a Nurmagomedov, and I guess maybe that freaked him out a little bit. I guess he was having, the PTSD of just imagining Khabib in there, Khabib at ringside, octagon side. And I think that maybe freaked him out as well. Let's go with Sergey.
I mean, I'm going to say it's going to be a really good fight. It's I think the perfect fight for the preliminary main event. So I'm looking forward to that one. And before we begin the main card, I'd like to ask, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, man. Those comments that came in on our last video, I really enjoyed them, but we appreciate it. Like, absolutely, anytime you can do some engagement with us, it's awesome. Hit us up on Instagram. But moving on, let's get started with the main card. Our first fight at lightweight, we've got a bout between Mateusz Gamrot and Jeremy Stephens. Currently, the odds have it at, interesting, minus 225 for Gamrot. The comeback on Stephens is plus 190. So Stephens is moving back up to lightweight. And it's going to be fascinating, right? They are both coming off of wins, both coming off of knockout wins. So we've got Gamrot, who I did not see this coming. I thought he was going to win by decision, but he knocked out Scott Holtzman, which was awesome. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I had an ice cream cone in my hand and it like spilled all over me after watching that fight. I'm like, because I dropped it. Literally, I dropped my ice cream cone on my lap when he knocked out Scott Holtzman because I just did not see it coming. And then Jeremy Stephens is coming off of a vicious knockout in the first round where he TKO'd Stiff. I shouldn't say TKO'd. He knocked out Stiff. Drakkar Klose via devastating shove. So that was incredible. So he's back to form. So it's a tough one, really, between these two guys, because we got the hardest hitting guy, the hardest shoving guy at 155 versus a pretty well-rounded Mateusz Gamrot. And his only loss for Gamrot is to Garam Kutteladze. Very interesting bout. And I'm quite high on Kutteladze, but we'll get to him when he starts fighting again. He's been away for quite some time. But to be frank, yeah, I'm kind of joking around here about Jeremy Stephens getting that knockout win. But I think Gamrot wins this one. At this point, man, Jeremy Stephens, if you don't know how to beat Jeremy Stephens at any weight class, and you probably don't belong in the UFC. This guy is so fun to watch, though. And like, I don't like saying shit like that because I really do love me some Jeremy Stephens, man. This guy's been in the game for a long time, knocked out a lot of people. He's made me some money in the past. He's cost me some money in the past, but he always performs and he always tries to get that knockout. But at this point, man, Gamrot being the younger guy by 5 years, he's the bigger guy. Frankly, I thought when I first saw him that Gamrot was a welterweight. Dude's pretty damn big for the weight class. But yeah, he's shown that he has the knockout power and he has the wrestling. So this should be a pretty easy fight for Mateusz Gamrot. And it pains me to say because I don't like saying that Jeremy Stephens is an easy win for somebody. The dude is dangerous, man. He can catch you at any point. He's moving back up in weight. He should be feeling better and healthier. So there's a chance, of course, that Jeremy Stephens catches Gamrot, but I don't think Gamrot's going to allow himself to be in a position where Jeremy Stephens tees off on him. I think Gamrot's just going to take him down, maybe ground and pound him a bit. I don't see him getting the knockout. If he does, again, I might drop another ice cream cone on my crotch. But I got Gamrot to win this one by a pretty easy decision, which again pains me to say. But I got Gamrot to win by 30-27 decision.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add, except that Jeremy Stevens, I mean, he's a fan favorite. He's, I think I think he belongs at featherweight, and I think he's the Cowboy Cerrone of featherweight. And I say that in terms of, he doesn't have the best record, and his losses, as of late, is pretty glaring because he's losing to, some of the best guys in the division, sure. But that can only, stand for so long. I don't know what his contract looks like. I don't know but this guy's exciting to watch. And I think that's why they've kept him around as long as he has, because the last time he won, he hasn't won for like over 3 years, I think. Yeah, man. His time is coming, unfortunately. His last win was Josh Emmett back in 2018. And that's when he was on a roll, beating Gilbert Melendez, Doo-Ho Choi, and Josh Emmett. He was a savage. But then he ran into Aldo, Zabit, Yair, and Calvin Qatar. And so, yeah, man, he's just run into I think this is going to be his 5th loss in a row. I'm also taking Gamrot because he's also, besides his record being on the decline, he's on the other side of 30 at this point. And I think he's moving to lightweight just to not have to weaken himself at featherweight. But I don't think that's going to be enough. So, long story short, I'm taking Gamrot, whatever the odds are. I'll take it by decision because Jeremy Stevens is hard to put away despite, him being on a losing streak.
Our next bout at middleweight, we've got the return of Rodolfo, the black belt Hunter Viera versus Dustin Stoltzfus. And the odds currently have it at minus 225 for Viera. Stoltzfus comes in at plus 190. And just to get it out of the way, man, Viera really let me down the last fight when he fought Anthony Hernandez. This is one of those situations where it's like, I guess we didn't see that coming. And then when you think about it, I'm like, yeah, it's highly logical that that could have happened, but you just did not see that as a possibility. He got his ass beat by Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, and he got submitted. And it's just like, I guess Anthony Hernandez now takes the moniker of black belt Hunter because, man, that's the crazy thing about this sport, man. It's that you can be an excellent black belt in a discipline and either get submitted by a lower level guy in that same discipline, whether it be jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, whatever. But yeah, it was like, it was not a good look for Rodolfo Viera. This dude has gas tank issues. So we'll see if he addressed that. He's a big, strong guy. And the comeback on Stoltzfus, I'll be frank, he is not impressed. Even in his win in the Contender Series, he won by slamming Joseph Fire. I think that's how you pronounce his name, Papyfer. And he broke his arm. And he just has not impressed. He lost to Kyle Dawkins. I think Dawkins was the underdog in that fight, but I hate to toot my own horn, but I just saw it immediately. Like, Kyle's going to whip his ass. And he did. He just overperformed that night, if you will, because at this point, I'm kind of little low on Kyle Dawkins. But the way I see this fight going is that Rodolfo Viera is going to continue doing what he does. He'll take someone down, go for the submission, and he has to get that, or else really it's a ticking time clock. I really don't think Stoltzfus has any of the same type of he's not very dangerous, I would say. I don't think he's going to be able to hurt not Anthony Hernandez, sorry. I don't think he'll be able to hurt Rodolfo Viera to the point that he might get a submission on him. He could potentially get a decision win if Viera just puts all his eggs in one basket and, again, gasses himself out going for a takedown / submission, and Dustin just cruises to a pretty easy decision. It's a possibility, but frankly, I just don't see Dustin being UFC caliber, at least right now. I know he's 29 years old, and this might be like he has to overperform. I just don't see it happening. I'll go with Rodolfo Vieira. He keeps doing what he's doing. If anything, if he hasn't improved his gas tank, at least he should be smart enough to go for the submission after securing a position, I should say. I stuttered a bit. So the way I would see it if I had a game plan, knowing that, like, hey, my gas tank sucks, go for the takedown and just control, get a win, and then progress later on. You know what I mean? Like, if it's been 4 months since he got his ass beat by Hernandez, that was very embarrassing. I don't think he has enough time to really improve his gas tank, but I don't think he absolutely needs to. I think he takes Dustin Stoltzfus down, controls him either on back control or in mount or it's whatever he wants, and just holds him down, and then potentially getting a submission later on and just cruising, really, because I don't think Dustin's going to be able to get off of the ground with a Viera, especially if Viera is not actively, desperately trying to get a submission. It should be a relatively easy win for Viera. So I'll go with Viera to win by a decision, but we'll see. We'll see if there have been any improvements in the gas tank of Viera. But again, I'm not incredibly sold on Dustin, but there are ways for him to win. But all those ways are really dependent on what Viera does. So we'll see what happens. I will stay the hell away from this fight. But if anything, Viera decision.
Yes, this is another coin flip, I think. Just in terms of, I'm not really confident in either of these guys. I would say I would give the slight edge to Viera just based on his jiu-jitsu and the fact that I don't think Stoltzfus has the grappling or wrestling, to stifle Viera. But that being said, man, who knows? I mean, he could expose Viera once again, with a what's that thing called? With a crucifix or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. This is a coin flip. I'm staying away from this one. If I had to make a pick, I'll go with Viera by decision. But I would say also stay away from this one. This one is not, I don't see a clear cut favorite because I'm not really confident in either of these guys.
Yeah, I think Viera, before I could start betting on him again, he has to show a level of improvement. Like, yeah, I believe he can beat some lower level guys pretty easily, even some higher level guys, some dudes that have some deficiency on the ground. But, Stoltzfus, he's a pretty tough guy. He really defended the onslaught of Kyle Dawkins on the ground as well. So, again, it really depends on what Viera does. So we'll see. Yeah, I think you're right. I think we're right to stay away from it. We ain't touching this one. Our next bout, co-main event of the evening, we've got Marion the Belizean Bruiser Reneau versus the returning Cupcake Miesha Tate. Interesting. Miesha hasn't fought in how many years? 4, almost 5 years. And what's crazy is that she went to one, she became something out there. She had a title in one championship where I forgot what she did, maybe just like a fancy desk job. So one championship could actually have some notoriety, like, oh, hey, you guys remember Miesha Tate? She's one of our people now. Like, come watch our shit. Shit, did I say Miesha? It's Miesha. The odds currently have it at -140 for Miesha Tate, and the return on Marion Reneau is +115. Fascinating little fight between two older women. Well, actually, I just said older women. I really did not realize how old Miesha Tate was. She's 34 years old. And then I remembered, like, how old is Marion Reneau? And I checked. I'm like, oh, she's 10 years older. She's 44. So this is an interesting bout because it's really a coin flip, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Are you leaning towards the overall skill of what you remember Miesha Tate had? Or are you going with the more recent activity with Marion Reneau? She has not stopped fighting. And again, it's been a 4-year layoff for Miesha. And it's a coin flip, in my opinion, because we don't know. We really don't know how good Miesha Tate is. It's an interesting one because, again, she hasn't fought in a long time. Marion Reneau, although she's older, she has been active. Frankly, if this was, man, even the fight with Raquel Pennington, I saw at that point, like, I think Miesha Tate is done because she had nothing for Raquel Pennington. And Raquel, isn't a top level fighter. And it was concerning then. I'm like, man, if Miesha's fighting like this now, I don't know what it is. Was it personal stuff? God knows what. But I'm staying away from this one. I cannot put too much stock on what I remember from Miesha. Winning the belt from Holly Holm, having that really gutsy performances that she used to have. I remember watching Miesha fight in Strikeforce, and one of my favorite fights of hers is her versus Julie Kedzie, where she's getting destroyed, and then she pulls off I think the third round submission. It was an awesome fight, and it really like cemented my, I guess, appreciation for women's MMA. I'm like, these girls go after it, and they will do what they have to do to win. So I have a overall respect for her as a fighter. Plus, we met her and she was really nice to us. But yeah, I'm not counting out Marion Reneau. Again, that activity is really going to count for a lot. Miesha Tate's timing might not be what it needs to be or what it could have been, really, because had she kept fighting, I don't know if that would have been a good thing for her. Maybe the break has been the best thing for her. She has had a couple kids. But to be frank, though, I think her overall success came because of Brian Caraway. So no Caraway, no bet for Miesha Tate. So I'm staying away from this one. I'll go with Tate to win by decision, but I'm not incredibly confident in this one. I'm kind of leaning to maybe even take a shot on Marion Reneau just because of getting that activity. I know she's on a 4-fight losing streak and she has not looked impressive whatsoever, but that doesn't necessarily mean shit. I think there's a possibility she can win just based off of having a little bit more activity out there. So I'll go with Tate as my official pick, but again, stay away from this one.
Yeah, so this is short and sweet. This is women's MMA. And keeping that theme. So here's the thing. So since 2018, okay, actually going back to 2017, it looks like Marion Reneau has fought close to once a year, per year. And her last 4 outings, she lost. One of those losses was to Kat Zingano. We all know what happened to Kat Zingano. So in my opinion, they're kind of on an even platform, or even, what is it? Even sand, even
Playing field.
Playing field. There we go. I was going to go through football field, baseball field, soccer field, some sort of field. Yeah, so they're on an even playing field, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, Miesha hasn't fought since she lost to Amanda and Raquel Pennington in 2016. That's close to 5 years. But I see Marion Reneau, she hasn't really done much herself. She's lost, the past 3 and change. So, she might as well have not fought, but she has to eat. So she has to go out there and, be somebody's punching bag. So they're kind of on even footing. As far as what I remember about Miesha, she's really sweet. She smells nice. So I'll give her a few points for that. And so this is hard. If I have to pick somebody, I'll go with Miesha, just due to the fact that she's 10 years younger than Marion. Marion, I think this is probably her last chance. If she gets another L, even if it's not in devastating fashion, I think she's. But actually, you know what? It's not Miesha, it's Miesha, because since her departure from the UFC, she has a little bit of Latin in her now. So it's Miesha. And by a little, I mean a lot. And she's training. I've seen videos on. I follow her on Instagram. And I see videos of her on. Training at Extreme Couture. I watch those videos several times a day. Take that for what you will. I think she's still, at least in my mind, she's the Miesha that we met back when she won the title in Strikeforce before she lost it to Ronda.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my mind, she's still that Miesha. She smells pretty nice.
Do you remember by any chance who she beat to win that?
Yeah, it was this lady. Marlis Conan.
Yes.
She was. Marlis Conan was in the UFC as well. I thought she was kind of hot until I looked at her eyes, and I'm like, never mind.
Was she in the UFC?
I think so. Was she?
Maybe. I think she went to
Um,
Bellator.
oh no, I'm sorry. She was in. You're right. No, she was in Strike Force. I'm sorry. She was in Strike Force and Invicta.
There you
So
go.
Invicta's kind of. I guess I took it as the UFC just because Invicta's kind of.
The feeder.
Um, yeah, it's like the minor, the women's up and coming AAA league for MMA. I don't know if it still is. Does it even exist anymore?
Yeah, it still happens.
Okay.
I'm hoping to do some judging there. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm pretty sure you'd get some nice perks. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? We'll just leave it at that.
Everyone gets a
But
10-8.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I love Miesha. I think, uh, like I said, in my mind, she's still, 20 some odd year old Miesha, holding me in a stranglehold. I'll forever remember that. I didn't wash my neck for like a month after that. Um, take that for what you will, but I love me some Miesha. I'll take her. I would suggest staying away from it. These odds, it's women's MMA, and we haven't seen Miesha in a long time. I would say I don't really foresee either of them finishing each other at this point. So I'd say maybe go with the over if you have to include this, but I'd say best bet's just to stay away.
Next fight and main event of the evening at lightweight, we've got Islam Makhachev versus Thiago Moises. And the odds currently have it minus 650 for Makhachev. The comeback on
Holy
Moises,
macaroni.
yeah, plus
Jesus.
one, plus 450 for Thiago Moises. Crazy odds, right? Unjustifiable? I think not. I think they're right. I don't want to say they're right on the money, but they're understandable, right? We've seen what Makhachev has been able to do in the last couple fights. I would say at least his last three fights, he has proven to be quite good, and it kind of erases that knockout loss against Martins where he just got starched. And I think I forgot what Connor said, like, "Oh, your cousin got starched" or something like that when he was talking crap to Khabib. But I always thought like, oh, that's hilarious because like, frankly, yeah, that's a blemish on his record. He would be 9 or 20-0 right now had it not been for that pretty vicious knockout that he suffered. But it happened. But he's really bounced back, and frankly, his fight with Drew Dober really made him undeniable. The way he looked, his takedowns look great. Coach Khabib has really taken him to like a different level where it's like he is just undeniable at this point. Like you can probably take and pick apart some of his previous fights, like the Army and Sarukian fight. Like, yeah, like his takedowns, and he just didn't seem like the overall complete fighter yet. And then you see him now against Drew Dober. And yeah, Drew Dober, very lacking of a ground game, but it was still very impressive. He made Drew Dober essentially quit, like, and not even fight the takedowns anymore. As for Thiago Moises, this guy, he's been another guy that it's kind of really improved overall his game, and he's been very impressive to me, to say the least, from what I thought he was. This, general Brazilian guy, young guy, just not UFC caliber, to me thinking, you know what, this guy, he's going to keep winning fights in the UFC. Unfortunately, this is not one of these fights. Props to him for taking this one because Islam should have taken a higher ranked opponent. And I know a lot of guys really wanted that Islam fight. Like Kevin Lee, for example, he's always been clamoring for that fight. And I'll give it to Moises. He's what, ranked number 15 in the world right now. Makhachev is number 7. So it's a good position for him if he wins this fight to really skyrocket himself into the top 10. But I just don't see it happening, man. Like Moises really doesn't possess the striking ability. I don't even think he has that type of power to knock out Islam, and his ground game, although it's good, right? He was able to submit Michael Johnson with an ankle lock. It's still Michael Johnson, and that dude is just mentally shot. And if you look back and you see the fight with him and Damir Ismagulov is like and I don't want to disrespect Ismagulov because I love this guy, but he has kind of a great value version of Makhachev. Like they do almost the same type of stuff, same type of takedowns, very active, but it's just that Makhachev does it way better. And I just do not see him losing this fight whatsoever. Whether he'll get a finish, who knows? I think Moises is a tough guy, so my thought process is this will go the entire 5 rounds. But another thought process is if Islam really wants to make a case for a title shot, he has to finish Moises. So we'll see how this goes. My pick is obviously Islam Makhachev to win. I'm having a tough time deciding whether it's going to be by a finish or by a decision. I will go a decision. I'll say maybe the over, depending on what the odds are for that. Maybe over 2.5 for sure, over 3.5 definitely. But I'll go with Islam to win by a decision. I just think he's the overall better fighter, more complete. Quite likely he gets a title shot. Maybe not after this fight. We'll see how the Conor fight goes out since we're recording this on a Friday night before the fight. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think Islam is knocking at that door for that title shot.
Don't really have much more to add. This is Islam's time to shine. I would say, well, here's the thing. Islam is going to win, yes, but he has to win in spectacular fashion. He has to like really take it to Thiago, give him some hands, maybe a kick or two, take him down, and then, really take it to him on the mat, show him what, Master Khabib is really putting on, all those fighters that he's training now. Because this guy is set, nobody wants to fight him, and he has to show everybody why that is. He can't just go in here, cruise to a decision, because that will look stupid for him. It wouldn't really push the UFC to like try to get these, another top 10 guy to face him. Because he's not really, yes, he trains with Khabib. He's got the same, I guess the fans are like, oh, hey, that guy looks like Khabib. But he doesn't have that star power that Khabib has. So he's got to show everybody like, hey, Khabib isn't the only guy in our is it clan, pack, whatever they call themselves.
They call themselves the Hot Tub Boys.
Yeah, in their hot tub group. They're yeah, man. But hopefully, Islam makes, answers that call. We need another Russian fighter to, we need to live him up to what Khabib is preaching and teaching these guys. He needs to come out strong, finish the fight quick, and then call somebody out. Call out McGregor, call out somebody. He needs to talk a little bit of crap and up his stock. So yes, Islam is going to win, but he needs to do it in impressive fashion. Probably, I would say he isn't. I don't think he's going to be as desperate as, because we're recording this the night before Poirier versus Conor 3. But at this point, I don't think he's as desperate as Conor. For those of you who saw, the press conference and the weigh-ins and everything, because I saw Conor sweating bullets, and I don't think he's as desperate as Conor at this point to get that win. Conor's still probably gonna, after this fight, he's probably gonna get that Diaz fight. He's probably gonna get the Manny Pacquiao fight, and he's gonna make his money. But the Conor of 2015 and before, that guy's gone. All the money in the world has made him, pretty comfortable. And also, I didn't notice the real GOAT in his training camp. I did watch the countdown and the embedded videos. No Artem Lobov to be found in Conor's training camp. So that does not look good. I would say Conor's more nervous than Makhachev at this point, but Makhachev has to make a name for himself. He isn't sweating as many bullets, but he's got to come out, and give a spectacular. This is what is expected of him. He can't just come out in cruise control and phone it in. He has to come out and really take this guy out.
So, what are you predicting? Like a first, second, third round finish, or?
I would say, if not in the first round, early in the second round. I don't think this goes a distance.
All right, interesting. I got the over, you got the under. And just to kind of go over the entire card, kind of giving you some thoughts, because I'll probably end up doing a stupid as full card parlay. So I'll see what I'll include. So starting with the first fight, I'll include Daniel Rodriguez to win by a finish. So an under, maybe a TKO. Hopefully that pans out. Nascimento versus Baudot. I'll go with the under. I'll probably go with Nascimento by submission to nicen up those props. I'll stay away from Lemos versus Montserrat. Ruiz, Conejo, screw that fight. The same with Johns and Dos Santos. I'll stay away. Figueredo, I'll pick him just straight. I think he was like minus 300. So I'll add him straight. I think he wins, but I don't know how. Taha versus Sergey Morozov. I'll stay away from that one too. Gamrot, I'll pick him straight. Viera versus Stoltzfus. I'll go with Viera to win that one. I'll add him straight as well. Stay away from Miesha. Then I will probably add Makhachev straight. So hopefully the odds are decent enough. So those are my picks for jacking around with the prop bets a little bit. We'll see how that goes for me. I might post a picture of my actual ticket on Instagram at Tiger Bomb MMA. So check that out. But those have been our picks for UFC Fight Night Makhachev versus Moises. Please leave comment, like, share, subscribe. We really appreciate all that. But that's been us from Tiger Bomb MMA. Johnny and Jose will catch you at the next fight.